The jungle was alive with its own kind of music. Cicadas hummed in the thick night air, leaves whispered as the wind shifted, and somewhere far away, a jaguar gave a low growl that carried through the trees. Jack sat alone on the wooden steps of his small cabin, staring out at the darkness. The smell of rain was heavy, and he knew a storm was coming. For years now, this cabin had been his refuge. A simple place, built by his own hands deep inside the jungle where no one cared to wander. Out here, the world was quiet. Out here, he could forget the screams of battle, the smell of burning metal, and the faces of comrades who never came back. Jack was a soldier once, a good one, but war had a way of turning even the strongest men into hollow shells. When the fighting ended, he did not go home. He had no family waiting, no peace to return to. So, he built his own silence. A silence filled with the sounds of rain, the crackle of his small fire, and the company of no one but himself. But silence never lasts forever. That night, as the storm broke open and lightning lit up the jungle sky, Jack heard something strange. Not the usual cries of the forest, but a sound fragile and desperate. A voice. It came from the trees, faint at first, then clearer as thunder rolled. Jack grabbed his lantern and his old rifle, moving carefully toward the sound. His instincts never faded, not even after years away from war. He expected an injured traveler, maybe a lost villager. What he found instead stopped him cold. A figure knelt in the mud, drenched in rain. The light revealed her face, and Jack thought his tired mind was playing tricks. Her skin carried a faint shimmer, as though the storm itself had kissed her. Her eyes glowed softly, a silver light that did not belong to this world. She trembled violently, her thin cloak soaked through, and when she looked up at him, he saw both fear and exhaustion in her gaze. "Please," her voice was soft, broken. "Help me." Jack hesitated. Years of solitude had hardened him, but something in her voice cut through the armor he had built around himself. Without another word, he offered his hand. She took it, and her skin felt strange, warm, smooth, almost too perfect. He pulled her to her feet and led her back to the cabin. Inside, the fire burned low. Jack gave her the only blanket he had. She clutched it tightly, her body still shaking. He watched her for a long moment, unsure what to say. "Stay here for the night," Jack muttered finally. "The storm will pass." She gave a small nod, curling into the blanket. Her silver eyes closed, and soon her breathing steadied. Jack sat back in his chair, rifle leaning against the wall, staring at the stranger who now lay on his floor. He told himself she would be gone by morning. That was easier to believe. That was safer. But deep down, he already knew nothing in his quiet life would ever be the same again. Morning came slow. The storm had broken in the night, leaving the jungle wrapped in a heavy mist. Droplets clung to every leaf, and the air smelled of wet earth and fresh life. Jack stirred from his chair, his body stiff from sleeping upright. For a moment, he wondered if the strange encounter had only been a dream. But then he saw her. The alien girl was still there, curled in his blanket on the wooden floor, her silver eyes closed in sleep. The fire had burned down to faint embers, but the glow of her skin caught the weak light that slipped through the cabin's shutters. She looked fragile, yet there was something untouchable about her, as if she belonged to the stars themselves, not the ground she slept on. Jack stood, rubbing his tired eyes, and moved toward the door. He needed air, needed space to think. A stranger in the jungle was rare enough, but this was something else. Behind him, her voice broke the silence. "You are leaving?" Jack turned. Her eyes were open now, watching him closely. He could not decide if her gaze was curious or cautious. "I was checking the trees," he said flatly. "Storm might have knocked some down." She sat up slowly, the blanket slipping from her shoulders. "You helped me," she said. "Why?" Jack shrugged. "You look like you needed it." For a long moment, she just stared at him. Then, a faint smile touched her lips, the kind of smile that did not quite reach her eyes. Most men turn away from strangers, especially ones like me. Jack studied her again. The shimmer of her skin, the strange light in her eyes. She was not human. Any fool could see that. Yet she did not carry the threat he expected. No weapon, no hostile edge. Just a quiet presence, like a flame trying not to be blown out. "What is your name?" he asked at last. "Selira." She spoke it softly, almost as if she feared the sound of it. Jack nodded once. Jack. They left it at that. He busied himself with chopping wood outside while she sat near the fire, drying her soaked cloak. Now and then, he caught her watching him through the window, her silver eyes following every swing of the axe. It should have ended there. A night of shelter for a stranger. By tomorrow, she should have gone, slipping back into whatever hidden path had led her here. But the jungle had other plans. That evening, as the mist thinned and the sky darkened again, Jack heard it, a deep hum in the distance. It grew louder, vibrating through the air until even the cabin walls seemed to tremble. Jack froze. He knew the sound of machines, the heavy rhythm of engines designed for the skies. He stepped outside, eyes scanning the heavens. Then he saw them. Two ships, dark and sharp, cut across the twilight sky. Their lights swept over the jungle like searching eyes. They did not belong to Earth. He had never seen anything like them. Jack felt his gut tighten. He turned back to the cabin. Selira stood in the doorway, her face pale, her eyes wide with fear. "They found me," she whispered. Jack's grip tightened around the handle of his axe. His instincts flared, the old soldier inside him stirring awake. He had no idea who she truly was, no idea why ships were hunting her. But in that moment, he understood one thing. Whatever storm he had walked away from years ago, it had just found its way back into his life. And it wore the face of a silver-eyed girl named Selira. The sky grew darker as the ships passed overhead, their searchlights slicing through the jungle canopy. Jack kept his eyes locked on them until the hum of their engines faded into the distance. Only then did he turn back to Selira. She had not moved from the doorway. Her hands clutched the edge of the blanket he had given her, and her breath came fast, shallow. It was the look of someone cornered, someone who had been running far too long. "You want to tell me what that was?" Jack asked, his voice low but sharp. Selira's silver eyes flicked to the trees, then back to him. For a moment, she seemed torn between speaking and staying silent. Finally, her shoulders slumped. "I cannot hide the truth from you anymore. Those ships were not searching for Earth. They were searching for me." Jack folded his arms across his chest. "And why would they do that?" Her lips pressed together, trembling slightly. Then, in a voice barely louder than a whisper, she said, "Because I am not only a traveler. I was a queen." Jack blinked. The words hit him like a strike he never saw coming. "A queen." She nodded. "My name is Selira Vera, heir to the Elorian throne. My people once looked to me for guidance, for protection. But my own council betrayed me. They sought power for themselves, and so they stripped me of mine. They called me unfit, a danger to the stability of the empire. And when I refused to surrender quietly, they sent hunters to chase me across the stars." Her voice cracked. She pulled the blanket tighter around her, as if the weight of her confession made her smaller. "I escaped. I ran until I found this world. I thought perhaps here I could vanish. But they always find me." Jack stared at her, silent. He had heard lies before. Men swore them daily on the battlefield, enemies and allies alike. But there was something in her tone, something raw and unpolished, that did not sound like invention. "You expect me to believe," Jack said slowly, "that you are some kind of alien queen in hiding, living in my jungle?" Selira met his gaze without flinching. "Believe or do not. It changes nothing. The truth is already here." Outside, the jungle had gone quiet, as if listening. Jack looked out into the trees, his soldier's instincts prickling again. If what she said was true, then those ships were not the end. More would come, and they would not be kind to anyone standing in their way. "You brought trouble to my doorstep," Jack muttered, turning away. "Yes." Her voice was steady now, though her eyes shimmered with guilt. "And I am sorry. I never meant for you to be caught in this." Jack picked up his old rifle from the corner. He checked the chamber, the motions practiced and familiar. His hands remembered what his heart had tried to forget. "Whether I believe you or not," he said, "if those ships come back, they will not be asking questions. That means I am already caught in it." Selira took a step closer, the firelight catching the silver glow of her eyes. "Then you should leave me. Now, save yourself while you can." Jack looked at her for a long moment. He thought of the years he had spent alone, hiding from ghosts of his own making. He thought of the night before, the sound of her voice in the storm, the way she had clutched his blanket like it was the only thing keeping her alive. "Not yet," he said finally. "I do not run until I know what I am running from." A silence fell between them. Then, for the first time since she arrived, Selira's lips curved into a true smile, not of politeness, not of fear, but of something else. Gratitude. And in that fragile moment, Jack realized the quiet life he had built was already gone. The jungle would not stay silent. The storm was only beginning. The following days carried a strange rhythm. The jungle, always loud with insects and birds, became their backdrop as Jack moved through the motions of survival. He gathered wood, checked his traps, and fished from the nearby stream. Selira watched him at first, her silver eyes quietly tracing every movement, as though she was studying a language she did not yet speak. Eventually, Jack handed her a knife. "If you are staying, you will need to learn." She hesitated, the blade reflecting the morning light. "In my world, I had people who did everything for me, even the smallest tasks. Then it is time you learn to do them yourself," Jack replied simply. So she did, clumsy at first, stumbling over the roots of the jungle floor, nicking her fingers while cutting vines. But she was quick to adapt, her hands becoming steadier each day, her steps lighter, more certain. Jack taught her how to track animals by broken branches, how to hear the warning of rain before the clouds appeared, how to build a fire from damp wood when the storms refused to let up. In return, Selira spoke of her own world. Not in full detail. Her voice still faltered when it came to the darker truths, but enough to paint pictures in Jack's mind. Illyria, she called it. A place of crystal spires that touched the clouds, of oceans that glowed in shades no human eye had ever seen. A kingdom bound together by light and sound, where the skies themselves seemed alive. At night, as they sat by the fire, she would hum softly. The sound was unlike any song Jack had known, notes that rose and fell like starlight, weaving something gentle into the air. He found himself listening longer than he should, his heart easing in ways it had not for years. One evening, as she struggled to strike flint against steel, she paused and glanced at him. "Why did you choose to live alone here? You could have gone anywhere." Jack stared into the fire, the flames reflecting in his weary eyes. "Because everywhere else reminded me of what I lost. Out here, the jungle does not ask questions. It does not care about the past. It just lets you exist." Selira was quiet for a moment. Then she said softly, "I understand more than you think. The crown I wore was heavy. I never asked for it, but I carried it because my people believed I must. And when it was taken from me, I felt both free and broken. To lead was never my choice. To lose it was never my choice either." Her voice trembled, but Jack said nothing. He understood the weight of burdens never asked for. Instead, he simply handed her the flint again. She struck it harder this time, and sparks caught the kindling. Day by day, they built a rhythm together. What began as survival became something gentler, something almost fragile. Jack found himself watching her more than he should. The way her silver eyes softened when she laughed at her own mistakes. The way her presence filled the cabin with warmth he had not known he missed. And Selira, in turn, seemed drawn to him, to the steadiness of his hands, to the quiet strength in his silence, to the way he shielded her without ever asking why. But their growing bond did not go unnoticed by the jungle. On the fourth night, as the fire burned low and Selira leaned closer than before, Jack heard it again, the distant hum of engines. Only this time, the sound did not fade. It grew louder, closer. Selira's smile vanished. Her body tensed. "They have found us," she whispered. Jack reached for his rifle. The fragile piece they had built shattered in an instant. The night split with the roar of engines. Through the cracks in the shutters, beams of white light swept across the jungle floor. The sound of branches snapping and leaves thrashing filled the air as the ships lowered, their massive forms breaking through the canopy. Jack pushed Selira toward the back wall. "Stay down," he ordered. But she shook her head. "They are here for me. You should not be caught in this. Please, leave me." Jack gave her a look that silenced her. "I already told you. I do not run until I know what I am running from. And I am not leaving you." Heavy boots struck the earth outside, metallic and sharp. Shadows moved against the glow of the patrol lights. Alien soldiers, tall, armored, their helmets shaped like the predators of some distant world. Their voices rang out in a language Jack did not know, but Selira flinched at the sound. "They are calling my name," she whispered. Her hands trembled as she clutched the blanket tighter. Jack lifted his old rifle, the steel cold against his calloused hands. He had sworn never to pick it up again, but the choice was gone. The war he had buried in the jungle had found him once more. The door rattled as a soldier's fist slammed against it. The voice outside barked harshly, demanding entry. Selira's eyes filled with panic. "They will not spare you if you resist," she said. "They will kill you just for standing with me." Jack checked the rifle's chamber. "Then they had better be ready." The door burst open. Light flooded the cabin, revealing the pair inside. The first soldier stepped forward, weapon raised. In that moment, time slowed. Jack's finger tightened on the trigger, the old instincts rising in him like fire. The shot cracked through the air, echoing into the jungle. The soldier dropped. Chaos followed. The others shouted in their strange tongue, rushing the cabin. Jack fired again, his aim steady, his breath calm in the storm of noise. Selira ducked low, her silver eyes wide with both fear and awe. But there were too many. The cabin shook as soldiers forced their way inside, armored boots stomping across the wooden floor. Jack swung his rifle like a club, striking one across the helmet, but another shoved him back, weapon raised to strike. Before the blow fell, Selira stood. Her voice rang out, sharp, commanding, filled with a power Jack had never heard from her before. The soldiers froze, their helmets tilting toward her. She spoke words Jack could not understand, but the tone was unmistakable. Authority, defiance, the voice of a queen reclaiming her place, if only for a moment. The soldiers hesitated. Jack took the chance, dragging Selira toward the back of the cabin. They broke through the rear door, sprinting into the jungle. Beams of light cut through the trees behind them, shouts echoing as the soldiers gave chase. Branches whipped against Jack's face, roots clawed at his boots, but he did not slow. He held Selira's hand tight, pulling her through the dark, guiding her as the jungle swallowed them. At last, breathless, they collapsed against the trunk of a massive tree. Selira's chest heaved as she pressed herself close to him. "You should have left me," she said again, her voice raw. Jack shook his head, sweat dripping down his brow. "I lost too much already. I am not losing you." In her silver eyes, something shifted. Fear softened into something deeper, something fragile, something human. But before either of them could speak again, the jungle floor trembled. Not from the soldiers behind them, but from something larger. Selira closed her eyes, her lips parting as if she had been waiting for this moment. "There is one last secret I have not told you," she whispered. The ground split open beneath the vines and roots. A faint glow rose from the depths, followed by the grinding roar of ancient engines waking from long slumber. Jack's eyes widened as metal gleamed under the moonlight. A ship, sleek and alien, began to rise from its hidden chamber beneath the jungle floor. Selira turned to him, her voice soft but steady. "My ship, my last escape." And in that moment, Jack understood. The fight was not over. It was only beginning. The jungle shook as the hidden starship clawed its way up from the earth. Soil and roots slid from its polished hull, revealing lines of sleek silver metal that gleamed like a blade beneath the moonlight. Vines snapped free, and the air filled with the deep, thrumming pulse of engines older than anything Jack had ever seen. The alien soldiers burst into the clearing just as the ship rose higher. Their weapons flared, beams of light cutting through the night. Jack raised his rifle, firing back with steady precision, covering Selira as she ran toward the ship. He knew his bullets could only do so much against armor forged on another world, but he did not care. Every shot bought them another second. Selira placed her hand on the side of the ship. The hull came alive with glowing lines that lit up beneath her touch, responding to her like a heartbeat. A door slid open with a hiss, and a ramp extended to the ground. "Jack, come," she cried. He ran, firing until the rifle clicked empty. Soldiers closed in, their voices sharp and angry, but Jack did not stop. He leapt onto the ramp just as Selira pulled him inside. The ship sealed shut, and in an instant, the chaos of the jungle was muffled by the hum of alien power. The cockpit came alive with light. Selira moved with practiced hands, pressing glowing runes that responded to her touch. For a moment, Jack simply stared at her. This was no lost traveler anymore. This was the queen she claimed to be, taking command of something that belonged only to her. The ship roared as its engines ignited. Outside, soldiers scattered, shouting as the ground quaked. The starship lifted higher, tearing free from the vines and roots that had hidden it for so long. Jack gripped the edge of the seat as the jungle fell away beneath them. The canopy blurred into a sea of green, then vanished into the curve of the horizon. The stars stretched wide above, infinite and waiting. Selira exhaled, her trembling hands finally steady as she guided the ship through the atmosphere. When they broke free of the clouds, space opened before them, endless, dark, scattered with light. For the first time since he met her, she allowed herself to breathe without fear. Jack looked at her. So what now? Do we go back? Take back your throne. Her silver eyes lingered on the stars. Then she shook her head. No, that life was built on chains. I will not return to it. For once, I want to be free. Not as a queen, just as myself. Jack leaned back in his seat, the weight of his rifle across his lap. He had thought he wanted peace, thought solitude was the only way to silence the ghosts of war. But looking at her now, he understood the truth. Peace was not found in silence. Peace was found in choosing something worth fighting for. Selira reached for his hand, her fingers warm against his calloused skin. Come with me, she said softly. Jack's answer was simple. Always. The ship soared into the endless dark, engines burning like fire against the void. Behind them, the jungle faded, the soldiers left scrambling in the ruins of what they had uncovered. Ahead of them stretched infinity, unknown, dangerous, but free. And in that boundless silence, where stars stretched forever, a soldier who once sought solitude and a queen who had fled her crown found something neither had expected. Not war, not duty, not thrones or crowns, but each other. And together, they vanished into the stars.